Always wanted to do that. Welcome, everyone, to the monthly meeting of the Executive Committee. If you would please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Public notification of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. All in agreement say hey. Thank you. All right, good. Need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to move the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And who else do we have here? Somebody to second it?
I can second it.
Thank you. Without objection, I'll approve the agenda. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. The next is we want to approve the minutes from September the 7th. Need a motion for that?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Still here.
Second, all right. Without objection, we'll approve the minutes of September 7th. Do I hear any objections? Hearing none, the minutes from September 7th, 2021 are approved. We're now in a citizens' comment period. Are there any citizen comments? Sarah, anything? No? Okay. We have a very large gallery today. I'll just ask them. Any of you all out there like to speak? Either one of you? Oh, I'm sorry. Guess not. All right. No citizens' comments yet. Item number 7 on the agenda is an ordinance to amend the Stormwater Management Utility Ordinance as adopted September 26, 2016, to provide for the adoption of stormwater management standards set forth in the Southern Low Country Design Manual to meet municipal separate stormwater system MS4 permit requirements.
You're reading from the wrong agenda. You've got the natural resources agenda.
I knew that. I just want to see if everybody was awake. All right. The first item, and that's actually going to be taken up in a little while. Alice is going to take that one up. The next item is consideration of the approval of Monday, December 27, 2021 as an additional Christmas holiday for the Beaufort County employees. And I'm guessing that our administrator will want to comment on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you need me to, it's, we're off, Christmas is on a Saturday. We're off Thursday and Friday. It's been our tradition the last couple of years to grant 3 holidays at Christmas. And this is just my request you all to consider adding the following Monday after Christmas to that 3-day rotation.
This is a one-off? Is this a one-off decision?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Not an annual?
It's not an annual decision. We should probably look at setting a more permanent holiday schedule for Christmas time. But today I'm only requesting this one additional holiday for the county employees at Christmas for just 2021.
All right, well, let's just have a motion, a second, and we'll talk about it. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
I'll second the motion.
And a second, thank you. Discussion of the possibility of adding as a one-off. I guess that's because Christmas is on a Sunday or Saturday?
Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
This year.
This year. Yes, sir, Mr. Herbershon.
Thank you. I'm for this request. I just have a comment and a question. Number one, I do think that we should look to make this permanent as far as the holiday schedule. But then number two, what's going to happen around New Year's, which also falls on a Saturday? Are we covered for that?
Well, just to be clear, your first comment was, is this going to be a permanent change or?
Well, I think we should make it a permanent change, right, as opposed to coming back every year.
Whenever the holiday is on a Saturday or Sunday?
Correct. And then the question is, what are we going to do about New Year's, which also falls on a Saturday?
Okay. Well, let's take them one at a time. With respect to the first part, that obviously Christmas will fall on a Saturday or Sunday.
I mean, what I would propose that we do is whenever we bring back the holiday schedule to you all at the next appointed time for you all to approve that we will give you all an appropriate ordinance that would make the holiday schedule include 3 holidays at Christmas. because next time it'll be on a Sunday, obviously, but we'll do that as a part of a more permanent ordinance solution after today. The second thing is we're off on Friday prior to New Year's.
Did you hear that, Chris? Does that satisfy, or do you want to talk about it some more?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so we're now back to the main motion. Well, any other comments? Okay, we're back to the main motion, which is to add for 2021 only as an additional Christmas holiday, December 27th, a Monday. Last opportunity for comments. Hearing, we can approve this without objection. Are there any objections? Okay, without objection, this is approved. December 27th, 2021 will be a paid holiday for Beaufort County employees.
Does it have to go to the council or?
It does.
Oh, okay.
Sir?
No, I just wondered, does it have to go to full council? And he just said yes.
Yes. it'll
Okay,
go-
okay.
It'll be on your agenda for Monday evening.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Item number 8 on the executive committee agenda as opposed to the natural resources agenda. That was supposed to be amusing. Thank you. Authorization for county administrator to offer a buyback of employee personal time for 2021 fiscal impact estimate $820,000. Have a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Comment? Or
No, you go ahead.
Somebody
have a
made
motion?
Somebody did?
You can.
Oh, well, I do.
You make the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a second?
This is so, yeah.
I will second. I'll second.
Okay,
the
we have a
motion.
second. All right, we're in discussion about authorizing the county administrator to offer a buyback of employee personal time off for 2021, estimate at around $820,000. Comments?
I'd just like to make a comment. Oh, if you want
No, you go ahead.
or a question, how much was it last year about?
706,000.
It's considerably, significantly more this year because we are now dealing with the comp and class implementation. So these are our estimates. It could be less than last year. It could be a little bit more. We're just doing our best guess. Again, I'm not sure, as I said in the agenda item summary, that the council has a role to play in this. Necessarily, but since you all voted on it last year, I'm happy to continue with that and invite you all to join with me in doing this on behalf of our county employees. We're doing it a lot earlier this year because I would like, if we're going to do this, I would like for this to be available for the employees to take advantage of before Thanksgiving so that they'll have that money to use for Christmas expenditures once heavy Christmas shopping gets started.
Is $820,000 the best guess if every employee cashes in all of his or her?
So you're getting into the details now that I'm going to turn over to our finance.
Or is this just a guess of how much will actually be turned in based on some metric from years gone by?
So what that number is a projection based upon the same level of participation that we had last year, which was roughly about half, if I remember correctly, and also takes into consideration the growth in compensation as a result of the comp and class study, which was around 14.8% growth in salaries.
So this is a best guess based on an assumption of 50% participation.
Yes, sir. I mean, it
Okay.
could be more than that. It may be a little less. It really just depends on who decides to cash out. Last year, our projection was higher, but that considered full participation. And what we found out is that some employees would rather actually have the time away from the office to spend with their family as opposed to just additional funds at Christmas in one lump sum. So you never really know who will take advantage of it and who won't, but this is what we think is likely.
Okay. Any questions from members of council or comments? Yes, that's Mark. I'm sorry, Joe, we'll get to you next. Mark? Mark, we don't hear you. You're still on mute. That means we can't hear you. There you
I took
go.
myself off mute. I apologize. I am off mute now. Whitney, if you could just explain the last sentence on the agenda sheet that says that this has already been budgeted with the funds and where the money's coming from for this?
Yes, sir. So we did not budget a separate line item specifically for vacation cash outs, but we budgeted the overall personnel cost in each fund and department sufficient so that we think it will cover the cash out based on last year's trends. There may be some slight shuffling among departments depending upon utilization rates, but we think that in terms of the holistic coverage that we are covered.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Joe? You're on mute.
Yes, my only question is this. Do we have a timeline and deadline for employees to take advantage of this so you'll know exactly how much money we're going to need?
Yes, sir. If you guys approve the motion today to authorize county administration to do this, we would immediately begin working with the requisite departments to get the word out to employees. Communication would send an email notifying them that you guys have approved this as an option to them. HR would send out the requisite forms for completion with a very imminent due date so that we can get everything processed through the payroll system and on a separate payroll run apart from a regularly scheduled pay cycle so that it is easily distinguishable on the general ledger. So very quickly, it's a quick turnaround.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Questions or comments? Stu?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to this, and I do think occasionally some things are kind of good, particularly since a lot of people have been struggling because of all the pandemic types of stuff. But in general, I've never believed that these are particularly good programs. I think we really want employees to be taking a certain amount of time off to be with families and to recreate and whatever else they need to do. So, okay with this, but generally not in favor of it in general. Thank you.
Thanks, Stu. Anybody else? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Oh, I'm sorry. Chris, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A comment and a couple of questions. Number one, I'm glad to see that this is coming before council before being communicated to the employees. I think that that's the appropriate way to go about this. And I said the same last year. So one question, if the employees were to take their PTO as time off, what would be the incremental cash outlay for the county for that?
Honestly, it would be the same. It's just this is kind of a speeding up of their accrued balance. So whether they took the time away from the office, let's just say for 5 days during Christmas, or they were present in the office, but they still took the cash out for that same 40 hours and got the paycheck up front, the ramifications on our books is the same. It would maybe just be a speeding up of employee utilization. But in some instances, like our public safety employees whose operations are around the clock and 24/7, it's very difficult for them to take advantage of time off throughout the year just because of the nature of their duties. So this is typically your employee type that really takes advantage of this opportunity.
Okay, I'm not really curious about the impact on the P&L perspective, P&L and balance sheet. I'm more interested in the cash flow.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right now, as far as I know, we are in a very good position. Taxes will be rolling in shortly, so probably by the time we process this nearing the end of November and more of our taxes start rolling in, there really shouldn't be an issue, but I'll be happy to verify that with our treasurer who maintains our cash balances and let you know if there's any concern.
Okay, and then just the last comment, but I'm sort of along the lines of Stu. I don't think that this should be an every year type of thing. Last year, certainly, I think was a little bit different with the pandemic and things like that. But if we're going to be implementing the comp and class study and the intent is to give bonuses around the holidays, then really that's what we should be doing. We should be implementing some sort of a bonus structure that's considered inside of the comp and class study so that all of our employees are fairly compensated, which I'm sure, including myself, everybody wants to make sure that we're doing. I just don't think that this is the appropriate way to get at that.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Anybody else? All right. Without objection, we can approve this or we can do a roll call. Any objections? Okay, we do. We have an objection. Fair enough. All right. Start here. Mr. Glover,
You want to vote on this?
we're going to vote on it.
Oh, I made the motion? Yes.
Okay, it's a yes. All right. Ms. Howard,
Yes.
who else we got? This is not going to be alphabetical. I'm just going to have to read the ones that as I see them. Mr. Passman?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Lawson?
Mark Lawson, yes.
Okay. Mr. Flewelling?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. McKellen?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Herbishon?
No.
Okay, Mr. Rodman?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, who am I missing here?
Yourself.
I think that's everybody.
Yeah, you.
Did I miss somebody?
You.
You have to vote.
Yourself.
Oh,
Just you.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, of course I did. Somerville votes yes. It's 8 yeses and 1 no. This passes, and we'll move on to County Council for approval. Next item is number 9. Discussion of Beaufort County Redistricting Benchmark Report to determine the data sets, timelines, schedules to be used for redrawing the county council district boundaries. And I suspect that Mr. Greenway is going to want to talk to us about that.
Well, I'm not going to want to talk to you about it so much as Dan Morgan, who is the expert here and knows the history of what you all did last time, is going to talk to you about the schedule and the deviations and all that we need you all to decide, so we can send that to Mr. Rainwater's office. But the only thing that I would ask you to do is potentially in the fashion of Councilmember Rodman, that you consider to doing a consent cut type of agenda here with item 9 and item 12, that you take both of those and do one motion, and that way you'll kill 2 birds with one stone and finish off with both of those items with this particular discussion.
So you're suggesting we combine items 9 and 12 on our agenda?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, I read item 9, so item 12 is a resolution establishing the criteria to be used for the reapportionment of all county council districts as to population following the adoption by the state of the federal decennial census as required by SC Code 4-9-90.
And I hope I'm not putting Mr. Morgan on the spot, but I'm going to turn it over to him now to come up and tell you all what we need to be doing here next, because this is one thing that I'm fairly limited in my knowledge on local governments.
All right. Come on up.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
It's good to be with you. So I'll just share a few things. I know that in 2011, we worked closely with the county attorney to make sure this resolution and all that was set. With Mr. Frankwater, as he came down, we had a discussion as well and talked about deviations and talked about the numbers of what we need to set and where we need to look to. So in history, in 2011, we looked at having a deviation of 5% is what was set by council at that point. The recommendation from the state is 10%, and we shot for 5%, and we ended up with about 2.74% was our deviation overall in 2011. And during that time, we had several sessions where we met, where council members would come and meet with our office and sit down and look at the numbers and be able to work together and try to put together different plans. And several individuals on the council now, we worked with them during that time. And we plan to do that same thing again, is once a timeline is set, we're available in our office to be able to meet with council members to be able to discuss their districts and their lines and the things that are happening in that area. There were several public hearings and public meetings that were set up by council members in their district areas. We met south of the Broad, we met north of the Broad, and we would just discuss those numbers and be able to work with them. The software is in place. We have all the data that's there, and we worked with Mr. Frankwater, with his, Mr. Rainwater's data that he sent down from the benchmark report, and we're ready to go at that point. Now, he's ready to be able to get everything that once we make that timeline and that resolution to be able to prove that, but we're here just to back you up and to back up the data for you. I can take any questions or anything.
Just as a comment, it seems to me because the county is growing disproportionately. I mean, certain areas of the county are growing exponentially, others not so much. So if we start off out of whack in 2021, by the time we get to 2030, we're going to be in, I mean, it's, the one person, one vote thing is going to be kind of laughable if we're not careful.
Sure.
So I mean, just my thought is we want to get it as close as possible. That's just my thinking though, so.
Right, and as Frank Rainwater said, he said if you went to the DOJ, they would look at it just as numbers, right? Just numbers, that's it. They would try to get zero deviation and just play with the numbers. And this way we know, as he shared, communities of interest in other areas need to take an important part to play in this as you make your decision.
So what exactly are we voting on? We're voting on, let's look at numbers 9 again. Discussion, we're voting on a decision. Well, this is just a discussion. It doesn't require a vote. Beaufort County Redistricting Benchmark Report to determine the data sets, timeline, schedule to be used for redrawing the county council district boundaries. And 12 is a resolution. Here's something we actually vote on.
Yes, sir. What you all are recommending today is the deviate. What I need you all to give me direction on today is the recommendation that you want to make to council on the deviation to be used. We would basically, and I believe the resolution has been drafted to say deviation of 10%, which is in compliance with state law, but we will do our best to shoot for something less than that, around 5% of deviation. That way it builds some flexibility for you. I need to know when you all want to be done, because our recommendation at the staff level and my recommendation to you all is that before the filing period in March for the primaries, that we're going to need to have these districts set so that those who want to run for particular districts will know where those districts are. We can communicate that to voters registration so that they can begin modifying any precinct information that has to be done. So I would like for us to shoot toward doing redistricting over the next, 4 or 5 weeks to potentially have something for you all to consider first reading of first in December, and so that we're done by the end of January of 2022 with regards to the redistricting process. That'll give us the month of February and into March to do what we need to do with voters registration so that they can adjust accordingly to the new procedures.
All right, I'm going to pull up that resolution.
It's right there. It's on the screen.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, there it is, okay. All right. Let's everybody take a close look at that, so that this one.
Oh,
Yes.
I think I agree with everything staff has said so far. I also agree that we ought to state that we're shooting for a 5% deviation as opposed to the required 10%. I think that if we publicly proclaim 5% deviation, we've exceeded the federal standard and the state standard, and among us, we can really shoot for the same 2.5% deviation that we had in 2011. But I want to leave a little room for us to be able to make sure that the communities of interest stay together, and that we certainly comply with the any Federal Voting Rights Act regarding minority equal opportunity. And I think that sounds really good. I like the timeline that staff has outlined, that it'd be a when is our meeting in December?
Meeting of council?
Yeah, meeting of council.
13th, according to Sarah.
13th. Okay. Well, so really 5 weeks, so that we can get an executive committee meeting together before that as well, to be able to forward a final draft of the plan to county council. And so with that having been said, it includes a motion to amend to 5 percentage point deviation. And the timeline that we've outlined, that would be my motion, sir, to accept this with change to 5%.
Stu, I'll second that.
All right, that's good. As I look this over, I don't see anything else that needs to be amended. Everything else is kind of generic, but I think you're right. I agree with the 5%. So we have a motion and a second to amend the resolution as written from 10% to 5%.
No, sir. It's a motion. It's a motion to approve the resolution as I have outlined, with the change that I outlined. So it's the whole thing all in one time.
Okay. All right. So the resolution and I'm going to use the word.
Actually, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to amend what Brian wants. Yes.
No, we don't.
No, the resolution is there. What you are saying is you want to amend the resolution to go from 10% to 5%.
Joe,
That is what you want to do.
excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I've made a motion to approve the resolution with a change. It's all in one. You don't need to have a separate resolution. The resolution to which they refer has not been put on the table.
Okay, well, I don't know that it makes any difference whether we do it one way or the other, but,
Saves time, except when
yeah,
people
that's,
argue.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
all you need, to Councilmember Fluellen's point, all you need is one motion and 1 second with the modifications that he stated. You're making a recommendation to full council. Staff made our recommendation. You all as a body have the ability to amend that recommendation from staff to full council. So the motion is fine. You just need a second for it and a vote, and you're good to go.
We have a motion to approve the resolution and it's amended. To approve the resolution amended to 5% from 10%.
And he has a second. It was Mr. Rogers.
And a second.
Mr. Chairman and Councilman Flewelling, as the party that will be making the changes to this resolution, I want to be clear about what those changes are. I understand that Councilman Flewelling wants to see the reference to 10% in item 2 changed to 5%. Do you also wish to see this resolution contain a timeline? You mentioned that we should bring this forward for the executive committee in December. That committee meets December 6th, and then council meets December 13th.
It's just recommended to full council, right?
I don't believe that staff asked for that to be a part of the resolution. However,
I agree, but I'm asking you if that's what you want.
I'm thinking, I don't believe that needs to be a part of the resolution at this point. It just needs to be advice to staff to do their best to get it to us by the first meeting in, or by an executive committee meeting in December.
All right, just wanted to be clear on what the amendment is. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so if we proceed to vote on the resolution as written with the 10% change to 5%, I think we're in good standing. Does anybody disagree with that?
No.
All right. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
before
sir.
you move, you get ready to call for the question?
I am.
Yeah, I just need to ask a question. Council has drawn the districts for Beaufort County, and the school district adhered to those recommendations. Is there any relationship between council and the school district when it comes to the district redistricting?
No.
So
That's our responsibility.
It's totally our
do
decision.
we even ask for their input at all?
No.
We just do it and just say, it's kind of arrogant, huh?
Correct. Well, I mean, we get the same input from anybody on the school board as we do from anybody, any member of Beaufort County, any citizen of Beaufort County, but they don't have any standing in the creation of the ordinance.
Okay. So we don't even develop a relationship with them to say, this is what we're gonna do?
Well, we have a
We
good
just go ahead and
relationship.
do
We have a
it?
good relationship with them, but this isn't in their wheelhouse.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
If I might, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Speaking directly to Mr. Glover, you know, the last time we did this, I made a point of speaking to my council, school board representative, and sharing with him the information and the changes to our district that we were about to vote on. And I talked to him at length and made sure that it was understood where it was going. I received input, but it was input that was helpful. It was not anything contrary to what I had already determined was a reasonable expectation. So I would suggest that you just speak to that person and have the conversation, ask what they think and receive their input and let that inform your vote.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question, comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Does anyone recall how many public meetings we had last time we did this? Do we have more than, like, one north of Broad, one south of Broad?
I don't remember.
We had at least 4
Okay.
meetings,
Okay.
and there may have been some additional ones that came up, but I recall there was 4 that I've seen so far.
Good,
that I
okay.
reviewed.
The more the better. Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't believe that counts all the county council meetings and executive committee meetings where the draft plan was revealed and made public and discussed in open session. So,
Okay. Who's that? Larry.
Oh, yeah, this is Mark.
Oh, Mark, I'm
I
sorry.
guess I could get this answered another time, but York brought up a good point. And I was just curious, what happens if we redraw or redistrict for county council, and then that moves a Beaufort school board member out of their district? How does that work? I hadn't thought about that until York brought that up.
it definitely will happen, Mark.
Same thing could happen.
Absolutely will.
The same thing could happen with us. We could redraw in a way that one or more of us moves out of our district. I mean, that can happen.
It's going to happen. And Mark, it's handled just the way it is with county council elections. When two sitting board members are in the same district, there has to be a new election for a school board member. One or both of them may file for that seat like it's an open seat. And then every district must have at least one county council member, but there may be a district that appears that has no school board member. And in that case, it's, winner take all. It's another election. The problem is compounded when you think about the county council representatives and school board representatives that are in the middle of a 4-year cycle and maybe stranded as the only one. Do they need to have election? But we'll figure all that out once the map appears. And we'll have one other thing to vote for, and that is which one of the county council seats will be 4-year seats and which ones will be 2 in those cases where we've received an imbalance in the number of seats that are up for election every 2 years. We have to have a certain number, at least half minus 1, I think is the number.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense to me.
Thank you.
All right, we're back to the motion to approve the resolution in item number 12, establishing the criteria to be used for reapportionment, and that includes a change in the resolution as originally written from 10% to 5%. Any other comments before I call the question on this? Hearing none, we can approve this without objection. Are there any objections? Seeing none, item number 12 on the agenda is approved without exception with a change of 10% to 5% deviation. Item number 9 was a discussion. Brings us to item number 10, which is another resolution to accept Operation Mariposa grant in the amount of $260,311.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We have a second.
Second.
Did I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a second. All right, does anybody want any further information on this grant?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. This is Audra.
Yeah, hey, Audra.
Steve is online if there are any questions.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a comment.
I'm sorry, Ms. Howard has a comment.
I'd just like to commend Mr. Dawson and his department on going after these grants that are doing so much for our community. Really appreciate that.
I agree.
I have a question. Audra, is this the first of the 2 grants dealing with Steve's operation?
The first of 2? I don't understand, sir.
Which one are we doing right now?
This is the Operation Mariposa.
Yeah, and what's the next one? Isn't there something for the opioid implementation?
Yes, sir. That is seeking authorization to apply.
Yeah, that's a separate, okay, fine.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
sorry. Okay.
Audra, could you tell us a little bit about how this money is going to be used?
Mr. Chairman, Steve is on, and he can explain that a lot better than I can.
Yes, sir. This is Steve Donaldson. This is actually going to be used in the prevention area. We have a very large Hispanic community, actually city-wise. Bluffton is #1 in the state. Port Royal is 4 and Hilton Head is 5, and as a county, we're #3 per capita. We have very few outreach programs for the Hispanic population. There's a disproportionate number of car crashes and arrests for DUIs amongst Hispanic individuals, and we think it is our responsibility to start reaching out to this community and do prevention activities. We're going to be working with the school system, the libraries, and other areas of the community that allow us to come in, set up programming with a Spanish-speaking staff person, as well as doing some education on our code of laws as it relates to DUI. There's going to be a number of other events as it relates to prevention services in general, but that's the bulk of the programming.
Mariposa is a Spanish word for butterfly. Is that significant, or is it just a name?
It is because if you take a look at our branding, it's actually a butterfly. Our newsletter is called The Butterfly Effect, and so this is just another transformational type of program. So, Operation Mariposa.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second on agenda item number 10. Any further discussion or comments before I call the question? Hearing none, without exception, we can approve item number 10. Are there any exceptions? Hearing none, item 10 is approved without exception. Item number 11 is an authorization for Alcohol and Drug Department to apply for the rural opioid implementation. That may require some discussion.
I'll make that motion, Paul.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McKellen makes the motion.
I'll second, sir.
All right, thank you. We have a second from Mr. Flewelling. Anybody going to talk to us about this?
Yeah, before Audra or Steve talks to you about it, I'd like to just set this up for them to make comments. This is a grant for about $1 million to try and reduce opioid abuse in our county. The emergence of COVID-19 in early 20 raised fears that rising drug overdose deaths could surge even further amid social isolation, economic stress, and disrupted access to treatment facilities and providers. Research showed that overdose deaths immediately spiked to previously unseen levels after the pandemic hit in March 2020, and it stayed elevated through the summer. Recently released data show that drug overdose deaths reached a record high of 93,000 in 2020. While those estimates are not final, this is more than 20,000 deaths above the previous high of 2019, and the largest single-year percentage increase on record since 1999. Since 2015, the percentage of all U.S. deaths attributed to overdoses has grown from 1.9% to 2.8%, even as COVID-19 increased total deaths by more than 300,000 in 2020. The overdose deaths exploded to more than 90,000 in 2020, and synthetic opioids were involved in more than 60% of all those deaths. Synthetic opioids played a large role in these explosive increases. Pre-pandemic research documented the rapid and deadly growth of fentanyl within the drug supply, including the combination with drugs like cocaine and methamphetamine. Researchers have said that elevated drug use and higher risk usage, such as cutting or mixing drugs from an unreliable supply and using in isolation, as potential factors in the pandemic's deadly surge. While synthetic opioids likely increased by about 20,000 in 2020, other deaths involving cocaine and psychostimulants like methamphetamine also rose dramatically. In 2015, opioids were involved in only 18% of overdose deaths. In 2020, it appears to be more than 60%.
So this focus for this grant that Steve and Audra will talk about really focuses on trying to reduce demand and encourage treatment for those who are dependent upon opium derivatives, such as heroin and fentanyl. We know now that most of the fentanyl coming to us in this country comes from China through Mexico in combination with the Mexican drug trafficking organizations there who have penetrated our border in record numbers. I'll turn it over to Audra and to Steve, and they can continue this discussion for information purposes to keep everyone fully informed on why this is such a good idea to ask for this $1 million.
Thank you, sir. You are correct. It is a $1 million grant. The money will be used, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, to expand prevention, treatment, and recovery services.
That is correct.
Steve, please feel free to expand on that.
Sure, I will. As you all know, we recently pulled in and are in the process of starting a first responders grant, which is basically we're present out in the community offering other interventions rather than expecting people just to come to our office. The rate of referral from the jail and also from emergency departments here at Baghdad is less than 5% total, less than 1% with the medical community in and of itself. One of the things that we want to do with this grant is we want to expand programming in these two vital areas with social workers and peer recovery support specialists to do outreach, to try to help make warm handoffs to us, support citizens in the community that are reluctant to come to treatment, and also to do advertising in rural areas of Beaufort County to try to let people know the resources that are available to them. Lastly, we want to expand our anti-stigma training to medical personnel, jail, law enforcement, and have training specifically targeted for that audience, because we know that stigma is not helpful, and it's something else that we have to combat. So collectively, what we're trying to do is we're trying to go out to the community rather than just expect people to come to the office to us. With all of these heightened overdoses and deaths, and during the COVID period with our numbers dramatically plummeting, we need to be out there in the community trying to engage people into services. So that's what this grant is about.
Thank you, Steve. Any additional questions for Steve or Audra?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Mr. Donaldson a question. When you talk about engaging, give me an example of your engagement with a client that's a opioid recipient.
Sure.
And let me further by asking the involvement of the medical field, the hospitals, and other healthcare providers. Is there a relationship between you and them? I know you mentioned the detention center, so you may see some in the detention center, but unless you are involved with the medical field as well, you may never know that we have a problem in our community. So I'm just wondering, the relationship that you have when you do your outreach work, how do you basically reach out to folks in the community that actually need, desire, not desire because they don't really desire, but they need that help?
Sure, be happy to. Before I came to Beaufort County, I worked in Charleston, and I actually had peer recovery support specialists embedded in the medical university's emergency department and 3 of the 4 pods that they had. I had a team of peer recovery support specialists that basically they met with all patients. It was just part of what they did. It was one of those people that asked questions. What the staff did was they respectfully requested people to answer questions. They shared data with them about, basically the response to their questions, and offered to assist them by getting them to treatment services if they needed. They also provided their contact information if a person wanted it, in the event that, like Johnny Appleseed, maybe the seed germinates after they leave the emergency department, and they would call back and we would help that person to navigate the behavioral health system to get into the services that they needed, some of them involving medication, some not. So I found this to be a very successful program at the medical university. It's continuing there. It's in the Grand Strand hospitals. It's in other hospitals in the state. And quite frankly, it's all over the United States. It's a layer of intervention that has found to be helpful. And there's lots of success that's been documented. And we just thought that we needed to implement a best practice that's proven to be effective in other places. So, basically the short answer is we would have a conversation with them, let them know that help is available, and, just try to offer it to them. Whereas when a person's leaving the emergency room now and it's known that a person has a problem, basically someplace in the discharge paperwork, it's going to say, go to BACADAD. This will be a much warmer approach to try to help engage somebody and to give that I care message to them.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else for Audra and Steve before we move on? Okay. We're at item number 10. We've had a motion and a second. Without exception, we can approve this. Are there any exceptions? Hearing none, item number 10 is approved.
I think we're 11.
I'm sorry, item number 11. Item number 11. Thank you.
Right, okay.
Item number 12, we've already resolved. Item number 13 is deferment of an ordinance proposing amendments to Beaufort County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 46, Article 2, Section 4626 through 4633, which was referred to the Executive Committee. Mr. Greenway?
Yeah, we just need you all to defer this again. This is the situation with BMH. Our attorneys are trying to communicate on both sides of the equation. They have not been able to do that yet because of the court system right now. The opposing counsel has been tied up in preparation for litigation, so we have not had a chance to talk with them. So we would ask you all to defer this until December.
Okay, thank you. Without exception, that matter will be deferred until September. Item number 14 is discussion regarding the elements of Rules and Procedures Handbook. We have only approved up to this point Chapter 1, and the reason for that is not that we've only done Chapter 1. We've done 1 through 6, but there was a problem with Publisher, the software platform, and for whatever reason we couldn't get it out to you all. You now have chapters, I believe, 2 through 6 in your inbox. Take a look at those at your convenience, and if you have any questions, you can either bring them up at the next Executive Committee meeting, or you can call me and let me know, and we can work together that way. So, and you'll continue to get additional chapters now that Publisher's up and running. Brings us to item number 15, which is
Paul,
yes,
Paul,
sir.
if I may. I just skimmed through it, and one of the things I found was that the most recent change of the executive committee, which was the ability to the matter of overruling the decision of the parliamentarian or the decision of the chair, had been changed back to 2/3. But I distinctly remember a vote of the executive committee changing that to the Robert's Rules of Order standard of a majority to overrule the chair. And so I'm surprised that it got reverted back to 2/3. Could we make sure that gets changed before we continue on, or subject it to another vote?
And Brian, is that's to over 2/3 or 1/2, as you say, to overrule the chair?
Yeah, the decision of the chair.
Okay.
On matters of parliamentary procedure. And I don't know if you remember that vote, but I distinctly remember you having a lot to say about it at that meeting as well.
Okay. Well, thanks for pointing that out. Appreciate it. All right, that brings our next item, which is item 15, which is a executive session pursuant to South Carolina Code, receipt of legal advice where legal advice relates to a pending, threatened, or potential claim or other matters covered by the attorney-client privilege. I think there are 3 items. Is that correct, Eric? You want to tell us a little bit about those 3?
Those items relate to potential litigation regarding the road use fee, Hilton Head National litigation, and potential litigation regarding 1 cent sales tax program.
Okay. I'd have a motion to go into executive session.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right. Without exception, we'll go into executive session for the purposes of discussing those matters described. Any exceptions? Hearing none, that's approved. We are in executive session.
Before we go into executive session.
Yes, sir.
I don't know, Mr. Smith is here. I don't know whether he's here for this meeting here or the next one. But I know you don't have a public comment at the end.
Did you want to make a public comment for executive committee or natural resources?
Well, actually, I do want to talk a public comment about the decision I just made about the changing of the zones. And y'all not bring that back to the public. Y'all would like me to comment about that.
You talking about the redistricting?
Redistricting, yes, sir.
Yeah,
What do you make of this?
we're going to have, we can give you a public comment after our executive session. Does that suit you?
That'd be fine.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
All right. We have no matters arising out of executive session, and all matters having been brought before this body, we are adjourned. And
Whoa, Mr. Chairman.
What?
So your public comment.
What?
We were going to move public comment to the end.
I asked Mr. Smith, he said he didn't want to comment.
Okay. I just wanted that to be revealed.
There's no scheduled public comment at this point, but I told him I'd be happy to have him speak if he wanted to, and I just spoke to him privately. He said he doesn't want to speak.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, yep.
Thank you.
How much time do you want before?
Whenever, 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay.
Yes.